Hi, and in this video, I will be doing a deep analysis of the 21st January 2024 social science paper. Now, if you are a student who's preparing for paper 2 with social science as your option, this video is for you because in this video, I will be looking into the paper deeply as to the types of questions asked, how many questions were asked from history, geography, political science, and pedagogy, what were the focus and what were the key takeaways. In case you are the person who has already taken this paper, then I hope this video will help you to focus and analyze as to, in case you've not cleared the paper, that is, where you could have focused for and what went wrong. So let's dig in. Now, I've already done an entire analysis of both paper 1 and paper 2 of the 21st Jan paper. I'll link it somewhere here and I'll also put it up in the descriptions. In that paper, I have looked at CDP, the two languages, and for paper 1, I have looked at EVS and maths. This paper is only for the social science paper because I have seen my students manage to do their CDP very fast. They don't struggle too much with the languages, but when it comes to the social science section, 60 marks of it, then they are stuck. So let's start with the paper. This was held on 21st January and I'm looking at the social science concept. And my first analysis or the first thing that I would like to talk about is about the types of question, what kind of questions which came. Now, for those of you who don't know what are these four types of questions, you can check my other video. It will again be in the descriptions and I will also link it up somewhere out here. But if you look at the kind of questions, there were 27 direct questions, which is kind of expected. There were just 10 AR questions, that is assertion reason questions. There were 4 statement questions, AB questions. Previously, these used to be termed as AR questions and there used to be a lot of confusion. But right now they've corrected it. They are correctly calling it the AB questions. This is my classification, but basically it talks about 2 statements which could be right or wrong. So there were just 4 of them. And there were 19 questions with internal choice. Now this was earlier used to be only 2 or 3, but now 19 questions with internal choice. So the paper has become a little tougher. If you look at the distribution of questions with respect to subjects, then history had 13, geography had 12, political life had 12. This is kind of expected. Pedagogy had 23. So this is along the normal path that they take. Now let me come back out here and tell you that I can't stress enough how little you need to depend on the NCERT textbooks because you have to strategically study, especially if you have social science as your topic, because social science is vast. In fact, I have done a totally separate and dedicated video on how much of NCERT should you focus on. And this is something which I have been saying over and over again, that only 13 to 15 marks comes from history. Do not waste your time on that, or rather study it very strategically. So let's get back to the paper. Now the distribution of questions for history. So if we take class 6 history, class 7 history and class 8 history, we had only one question from the entire class 6, 3 from class 7 and 9 from class 8. So the bulk of history questions were asked from class 8. I know this is terrible blueprint, but this is how it is. And that is again the reason why I urge you to check out that video on how much of NCERT to study and how to study. The focus topics in history were, so in class 6, since there was only one question, that was where was wheat and barley first grown. So that's the first two chapters of class 6. Class 7, it was 3 questions. So it was on social revival, the caste system, Shah Jahan, and what was Periyapuram, the book all about. Again, the first 2 questions, that is social revival and caste systems, they were very concept-based questions. So you had to know the concept behind this. If we move on to class 8, then there were 9 questions. There was a question from James Mill, which is their favorite. Famine in Bengal, another favorite. Mehalwari, another very common topic. There was Life of Tribals and four questions from the nationalist movement and social reform. So the questions were not difficult and they were from expected topics. So you had to do a lot of focus study. Now, geography and political life, they were more from all the chapters. So I can't say that only from this came from class 6 and this came from class 7. And since they were concept based questions, quite a few of them, and it is distributed, the same topic is distributed in stages from class 6 and 7. It's a little difficult to pinpoint, but in history, it is very easy to pinpoint that this is from this chapter of class 6, this is from this chapter of class 7. So, what I'm saying is that geography and political life, they were well distributed, and I will only therefore talk about the focus points or focus topics of geography and political life. So the focus topics in geography were the atmosphere. Atmosphere was a favorite topic. They even had questions like how much of the two most abundantly found gases in the atmosphere and things like that. There was a question from wind, the heat zones, the torrid zones, vegetations in the world, and the Ganga Brahmaputra basin. So it was well distributed, expected topics which you had to study. If you look at the focus topics of political life, there were questions from principal distance. There were 2, 3 questions from fundamental rights. There were questions on the casual workers. This has been asked many times. There were a few questions from the judiciary systems and some more. But these were the ones which were expected and they came. The others were a little on inclusive life and all, not very difficult question wise if you had prepared. Then we go on to pedagogy. The focus topics in pedagogy were the objectives of teaching social science. This has always been asked. We also had the subjects in teaching of social science, but it was not directly asked that which are the subjects which form a part of social science. It was asked in a very conceptual and a different manner. We have the skills in social science, skills of teaching social science, which is of your observation, experimentation, or classification, all those skills. The NCF 2005 was asked. You have assessment and CCE, as quite a few questions have been asked from assessment and CCE. The methods, in fact, there were 3 questions. One was on inquiry based learning, one was on field work, one was on project work, and they mixed and matched a lot of this. Sources of history was asked. Now, again, you never know what they will ask from sources of history, whether it's written or oral, but sources of history has been asked. Stereotypes and inclusion. So, quite a few questions from there. So, overall, if you look at the paper and if you look at the topics, they were not very difficult, they were not very unexpected. So, what are the key takeaways when you are studying for social science? That is what I would like to talk about now. The first thing is focus on the concepts. Whatever you're studying, and this is not only for social sciences, it's for everything, whether you're studying CDP, whether you're focusing on the languages, the skills of language, the methods of teaching any language, or you're focusing on maths, or you're focusing on EVS or even science, you need to know the concept by heart, more focus on the concepts. So if you have understood what that concept is, yes, some questions will definitely be recall based or objective type, which you have to remember and just know. But concepts were always important, and in this paper, it has definitely come through. The next is understand the distribution of subjects, that is your history, geography, and political life, and proportionately focus on the NCERT textbook. So I'll link that video at the end of this video, so that you can watch it next. But I really want you to understand that the way to prepare for the CTET is not to buy the NCERT textbooks and then trying to study all that. That's just not the way to study if you want to clear your CTET in the first attempt. My final thing is understand the focus which is there on history. I really tell my students that you do not have to study history at all. Rather, there are very few topics on history which you should do, provided, of course, that you do your geography, political life, and pedagogy very well. Because you are only giving up a maximum of 15 questions. And that also, if you just study the main topics, in history, which are often repeated, then, well, you will at least get 5 or 6 marks there. So I hope this analysis made sense. I want this video to be helpful for anybody who is preparing for social science paper after this. And there is a way to study and crack the social science paper so that you clear your CTET in your first attempt. If this video was useful, do like it. Thank you for watching this video.